This is let's say no to xenophobia in our society. And today, among the panel, we have distinguished lady and gentlemen representing the various African community groups here in the United Kingdom, to be precise, in Nottingham. So we will go around so that you know who these wonderful executives are in the community. So from my immediate right, you will start.
Okay. I am what I call it's a community development and a relationship officer, and I do so many things. And I'm also the author of Human Beings Rather, copy there, which is a kind of reading life. And I'm very happy to be here and to take part in this discussion, which is our.
My name is Valentine Koya. I'm the director of Mojatu Foundation. We are a community media house. We produce the Mojatu magazine, where we work with African and Caribbean communities, raising the aspirations of the people we work with. We also run empowerment programs for girls and women, and one of the major campaigns we are running is on ending female genital mutilation. I'm also the chair of the FGM steering group in Nottingham, and I also sit in the city and county FGM board as a community engagement officer.
Michael Richard. I represent ACN, the African community in Nottingham. I've lived in Nottingham for about 5 years, mostly studying, so now I'm working and obviously representing the African community here, from Nigeria, by the way.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Kwame Osei, and I'm an African historian, researcher, and media practitioner. I work also for Insite Media as a broadcaster and producer.
Yeah, my name is Sadiq Omar. I'm an academic from the University of Nottingham, and I am chair of the Sudanese community here in Nottingham. Generally, we try to help and support community members from Sudan to settle down and also integrate in the community.
All right.
Hi, my name is Patrice Musaruro, originally from Zimbabwe. I've lived in Nottingham for a good 10 years, and I'm part of the African community of Nottingham together with Michael. I'm the relations coordinator and also the communications director of the group. We work primarily with other groups within Nottingham that are working for the Africans in particular. So we try to make the link between events in Africa and events that are happening here in the UK, and try to make sense of where we are coming and where we're going. That's mainly my.
Today, our topic is say no to xenophobia in our society, to be precise, in Africa, since we all have connection one way or the other to our Africa. But the discussion is on South Africa, unfortunately. That is not the only African country that we have people maltreating other people, but because it is what is happening now in South Africa that has brought up this topic. We are also aware of what is happening in Angola, the maltreatment of Nigerians in Angola. And so it cut across everywhere in Africa. There are people that exhibit this kind of attitude. And so we do not want to say that it is only in South Africa that this thing happened, but there is always a scapegoat, let me put it in that way, for a reason or a topic to be discussed. So we will go round with the main topic. What is xenophobia? And we will go with Mr. Kwame Osei.
Xenophobia is a fear of foreigners. But for me, as a Ghanaian, as African, I find it strange, particularly what is going on in South Africa, that we seem to be killing ourselves, and I don't think it should be called, I don't think it should be xenophobia because I don't see an African as being a foreigner in his own land.
I think it's the fear of the foreigners, I would simply say that. And it's difficult to actually comprehend what's happening in South Africa at the moment, especially given that South Africa has gone through a struggle where the rest of Africa has actually stood with them. So what's happening at the moment is really sad, and I just hope the situation is going to change.
You want to be very clear. What is the difference between being racist and being xenophobic?
I think when you talk of racism, there are power dynamics there. You are talking of someone who's being deprived of equality, which may be different from xenophobia, where Kwame said it's the fear of the foreigner. What I'm looking at again is allocation of resources, right? In xenophobia, the people in South Africa, especially the Zulu, what they just happen to focus on a vulnerable group of people to air all their problems, you see. But deep down, what they're looking for is resources, equality, chance to have work, and all sorts of things that they need in their day-to-day lives. And then when you can't put racism in there because they are exactly the same race as the other Africans who they are trying to kick out of their land.
Dr. Sidi, don't you think that all of us have this fear, or I'll call it xenophobic genes?
It's right. I mean, that's true. This happens all around the world. It's not only in South Africa. You could see here in UK possibly happen. The system doesn't allow it to go to that extent. Mm-hmm. It happened in Africa in many countries. Like you go Central Africa, we know a few years ago. Okay, being defined as between Muslims and Christians, but they're all Central Africans.
Yeah.
It happens in South Sudan, the new South Sudan, after the war, and also happened between tribal. Mm-hmm. But it is something that occurs quite a lot around the world, which need to be tackled. It just people need to be aware that all people have the right to live wherever they are, and that's one of the issues that actually drives this phenomenon, I assume, in many cases. It is unfortunate that in most of the places that it went to that extent, the system was not able really to stop this escalating, and that's possibly the reason that the results was so horrible, in particular.
Are South Africans horrible in the sense that Nigerians, are Ghanaians, are Zimbabweans not foreigners in South Africa?
Okay, let me come back to this definition of xenophobia. Xenophobia comes from two Greek words. Xeno, which means strange or stranger, hence foreigner, and phobia, which means fear. Hence we got xenophobia, the fear of the stranger or the foreigner. Mm-hmm. The point is to be put on fear. You ask if it is in us all. Yes, it is a natural and a human sentiment or feeling. It is in us all. We all fear to step in a strange land. We all fear when a stranger comes to us. But the difference comes where you put the barrier or the level in fear. Somebody who is a teacher described fear as F, standing by force, E, standing by element, A, standing for appearing, R, standing for real. So fear is false elements appearing real. So when you consider things like that, it is the response to fear that determines how you manage that fear. Since it is appearing real, but it's not real, most of the time, the result is irrational behavior. You run away when you don't need to run. You battle when you don't need to battle. Coming to your question, are South Africans?
Other African states not foreigners to South Africa?
Okay. What is happening recently in South Africa is a very sad thing. They just lack some self-esteem, self-sufficiency to block that fear or to manage that fear. So they are attacking their brothers and sisters, thinking that they are foreigners. This behavior, which is in us all, needs to be managed.
Are Ghanaians not foreigners to South Africans?
No, because when you study history, these borders, when you look at our continent of Africa, the borders that divide us, so to speak, were not created by us. They're created by the colonialists. Why? And I would implore people to actually look at a piece of paper called the Berlin Congress of 1885. This was before the First World War, when the Europeans got together to divide that map you see there. Understand? So ask yourself, how or where did the idea of a Ghanaian, of a Nigerian, of an Ethiopian, of a Kenyan come from? It didn't come from us, because we had our own tribal or indigenous states like Yoruba, Ashanti, Benin, Mwanwotapa.
Foreigner. The Ashanti saw the Ewe as a foreigner, even at the time.
But this is, for me, this is one thing that we have struggled to grapple with. The idea that you are all one people. As long as you live on this map, on that landmass, even outside, as long as somebody said, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. As Kwame Nkrumah said, our first president, I'm an African because I was not born in Africa, because the African is born in me. So we shouldn't restrict ourselves. It is very dangerous for us to restrict ourselves just because we are born in that land, then we are African. You understand? So for me, there's a much deeper emphasis on, on being African, and we shouldn't see ourselves as Ghanaian, as Nigerian, as Togolese, as Cameroonian, as Kenyan. We should see ourselves as African, and for me, that needs to be the focus, because once we get divided, because this is what our forefathers wanted, this whole thing about African unity was predicated on the fact that Kwame Nkrumah said one time that we are not here as Ghanaians, we are not here as Nigerians or Kenyans or Togolese or Liberians, we are here as Africans, and we should see ourselves as African people.
Yes, I mean, the idea of defining yourself, not defining as in a group, but also defining yourself
as a country.
As a country, it's fine. But once you come to live with the people, I mean, assume that aspect of defining the others has no right to be within that region. It's a problematic in general. So you deny the right of the others. That's the whole issue. And that culture is not really being developed in many of the countries that these things happen. So for example, I accept I'm Sudanese, but I know there's a lot of people who came to live in Sudan and became Sudanese. And then obviously they gained that right to be part of the people of that land and live the same way as I live. So the idea of saying this is mine, you don't have right to come to it, is what actually leading to this, whether you call it racism or...
Okay. Michael, what is your take on this?
I mean, let's start from like you did mention, we have different nation states, Ashanti, Yoruba, Igbo, different. Africa has never been a united continent. We have never been a united people. But I feel that after what we have gone through as a people, we are united. We should be united by a historical experience, because our destiny is the same. You know, our history is tied to that destiny, and if we have to come out from the mess of history that we've gone through, there's no way we can achieve it by disunity. It can never happen. So we need to come together. We need to be united, and we need to, you know, embrace more of integration in the continent in order to solve our problems. Our problems are huge. We have a global system that has oppressed us for too long. You know, we can't afford, you know, to remain in it, because what's happening in South Africa is ignorance. I don't think most of those people did know that somehow Nigerian students, Nigerian civil servants were contributing their salary, parts of their salary, monthly salary to the ANC. They don't know that. I don't think they did, because if they knew that, they would have taken a step back before they made those actions. Even if they didn't like the fact that Nigerians came to take over, you know, some of their economic portion, they would have had that understanding, and that would have restrained them from doing what they did. So I think a knowledge of history is very important, and the fact that we need to come together as a people based on our experience to face a common future. So
I think that's a really powerful point he's made there, because as you say, it's a small group of people who are ignorant, and we can't really label South Africa as xenophobic given that it's got more than 50 million people. And, you know, we've seen people marching on the streets, you know, they're against the xenophobia. So it's not an entire country that is actually a problem. However, I think that the government needs to look deeply into the root cause of this, because when people are not happy, when their needs are not met, there's always that danger of, you know, blaming the other for the problems they are going through. And I think the government needs to really consider, because if you look deeper, what people are angry about is issues around social economic you know, aspects, and those are deeper things that needs to be addressed.